What's up, Caleb? How we doing today?
How's it going?
Oh, living that dream, brother. You know how it is.
Oh yeah, yeah,
So I'm gonna
yeah.
let you. My eyes might start darting, or you might hear me typing or something like that. I'm just gonna be writing some notes if that's okay. I'm not ignoring you or
Okay.
anything. So let's see here. Tell me how this past week has been.
This past week's been all right. Little hit and miss, but overall I think it's been
Hmm.
decent.
Tell me about how it's been hit and miss.
I don't know. Some days I've just felt a little, I don't know, a little out of it, little maybe a little annoyed at the start of my day, and then that kind of tapers off. But
So you said, is it just at the start of your day?
yeah, mainly just at the start.
Interesting. So you said at the start of the day. Is that just like normal, like wake up grumpiness, or do you feel like it's a little bit more than that?
Uh no, I think it's mostly wake up grumpiness.
Okay. All right. So last week we were talking about you felt like you were struggling with some like imposter syndrome where you don't feel like you deserve or like you're really deserving of your accomplishments, stuff like that, like the basically the definition of imposter syndrome. Can you like just tell me a little bit more about that? We didn't get too deep into it.
Yeah, I mean like on the surface, I feel like I have a lot of confidence in my mental game, so to speak. Like I feel pretty confident in my academic abilities, in my ability to like reason through like academic problems and things of the sort. But
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I wonder if I'm really up to par with where I'm at. Like I'll answer the questions and I will feel okay while I'm doing the questions.
Mm-hmm.
But afterwards, I'll set back and think, like, do I really understand and know this? Like, am I going through the motions? Am I really getting this? Like, would I stand up to the test of like talking to somebody who knows what they're talking about? Like, right? Someone on my level or
So
further?
are you afraid that you're not really understanding it, but like you're just kind of memorizing stuff?
I think that's part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the other part of it is just like questioning if I really have the capacity that sometimes I think I have or I've been told I have in the past when it comes to like these different topics.
Okay. That's great. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about that actually. So something I saw here is like questioning if I have the capacity that I think I have or that I've been told I have. I want to focus on that second part a little bit that I've been told I have.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, so I mean like growing up like early elementary school I was placed like was like labeled as like gifted or whatever, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I can read fairly quickly. Most of what I read I retain and understand decently well.
Mm-hmm.
Like that much I know is true. Like those tests you took in like elementary school over like books that you've read on the computer where you'd like put
Yeah.
in like the title of the book and then answer the questions, yeah, and you'd get scores on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I consistently did super well with those. And like the books that I've read that I really love, I remember a lot about and like can talk about the complexities of it at the drop of a hat, no problem. Um, and like if I pair that with what I was told at home for consistently bringing home good grades and good marks on my papers whenever at the time I didn't have to put in a, a, like any sizable amount of effort aside from paying attention and doing my homework,
Mm-hmm.
right? So like I feel like I've been lavish with this, like you can do this, like you can do anything, like you're super smart. And like this is like it's kind of been instilled in me. I've heard it so much. Like granted, I've done things that elicited those responses, right? Like I got into a good university on scholarship, or I did well in my in high school and I've done well in university, but like the same time it feels a little bit what am I going to say? At the same time, it feels like maybe not that the praise isn't genuine, but it feels surface level to me.
Hmm. So surface level, like you feel like when people are saying like, "Oh, Caleb, you're so smart, you're so great at these things," are you having trouble? Are you having trouble believing that they mean it, or are you having trouble accepting it?
Um, I kind of I this might be a weird analogy to make, but it's kind of like when you tell a pretty girl she's pretty, right? Like a girl that's been told she's
Yeah.
beautiful all her life, right? Like it like sure I'll accept it and be grateful in the moment. And I don't think they're like outright lying to me. Yeah. Or like
Hmm.
I think it's like genuine in some cases, but at the same time it feels like something that's just on the surface, I
Hmm.
guess I should say.
You don't feel like it's coming like from the heart, like is that it?
Yeah, like it doesn't strike my heart all that much. It might be
Okay,
from
yeah.
their heart, but like me, I don't feel like it hits home. It's oh, I was just thinking of something. It feels like at this point I've been told that so much that I want to say that like it's hard for me to blur the line between like me and my intelligence,
Hmm.
right? It's hard for me to set out that clear defined space. I feel like they overlap too much just with the amount that I am complimented on some like computational ability, some
Hmm.
memorative ability.
Now, like, have you always felt? How long have you been feeling like this? I'll say. How long have you had these thoughts or beliefs?
I mean, really, they started around the time I graduated high school. I mean,
Hmm.
around then, I guess it like I like had those inklings, right? Like at that point, I felt like I'd been kind of desensitized to the you're smart or like you're intelligent. Like I'll play around and joke and act like I'm the smartest man alive just because I think it's funny. But like at the same time, like from that point on, it's just been kind of like progressively more so like
I hear you. So, has
yeah.
there ever been anything that's like really challenged this belief that like that you're like gifted and like that you're like incredibly intelligent?
Yeah, I mean, like, I think college as a whole is kind of challenged that, right? It's required
Hmm.
a lot more effort, and there've been a lot more ups and downs as far as like how confident I feel in something, like consistent scores and things like that, right? Like it always turns out well for me, but like the process of it turning out well is a struggle. And so it doesn't feel I guess it's not like high school
Hmm.
days, so to speak, right?
So, have you been placing your basically
Oh,
your sense of
you
the?
kind of cut out there. Did you say something?
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Have you been placing like your sense of self and sense of oh, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. My thing popped up on my screen. But have you been placing your sense of self and your sense of confidence in these test scores, pretty much, or grades?
I I think I do think that's part of it. Like
Mm-hmm.
I think a part of it is um like the level of my course or the how like not well known what I'm doing is kind of been like
You're used to
something that I
being.
kind of gravitate towards. And part of me is like, I am like the math guy, or like I am the high level chemistry guy.
You're used to being like in high school, like superstar, academic.
Yeah, like well, like Jack, like kind of just like, yeah, like great in academics and friendly with everybody, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like, not that necessarily I'm not friendly with people anymore, right? Or like I don't have friends, but like now it seems like my main focus is like just like the academics that I'm doing.
I
Um,
hear you.
it's been that, and then like I've been trying to branch away from that and do something I'm not so confident in, which is
Mhm.
like writing, right? So like writing stories, like writing short stories and things along those lines, or drawing. But that's weird for me too, because the drawing especially doesn't come super easy.
Mhm.
And I
You're
feel
learning a
like
new
that only
skill.
furthers it. Like, oh, if I can't do something like this that so many people can do and do well, like, can I really say that
You're kind of
like I have?
catastrophizing it. Like
Yeah,
I'm not good at this right now, so I'm never going to be good at it. Is that on base or no?
I don't think it's quite that. It's a little bit of like impatience.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Like I'm not good at this right now, and I want to be good at this right now. Not that like at the very least, I'm able to tell myself it takes time because
Mhm.
I understand that things take time, right? At least on a lip surface level, I do. Um, but
Did you
it's
ever
like
feel like, well, you said things take time? Did you ever feel like that with your? I know you said you put a lot of like some of your confidence in your like academic ability, or at least you had. Did you feel like it took time understanding those, or did those pretty much click into place?
so like um early on they clicked into place, and even later on, I mean it took a little bit extra time, but it wasn't something too terribly extensive, right? So
Mm-hmm.
long as that I was putting in effort, I was I was seeing pretty quick understandings and returns, especially based off like my previous knowledge and
Mm-hmm.
things that I had accomplished before. Maybe that's because of the fields that I'm in and how they work and kind of this like off ball sense, right? This building up sense. But
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I mean, I definitely feel more impatient with the
Mm-hmm.
with the academic things. Like if I'm not getting this quick, like there's something wrong here. Like
Could that be because you're so used to just being able to understand things, being used to being praised on your ability to comprehend and then use, that when things aren't, especially with academics, like that when things aren't coming super easily, you feel a little bit fraudulent?
yeah, I do think that's a part of it. And I feel like if I'm like from the praise that I've gotten to the like from the praise that I've gotten from the like quick understanding, I feel
Mm-hmm.
like if I'm not quickly understanding new things, I'm letting down the praise and their beliefs, like as though like I have undermined it by not
Mm-hmm.
being perfect.
It kind of sounds like, you can tell me if I'm like wrong or off base or however wrong, or like you can tell me if I'm close at all. That a lot of your confidence and like just ability to believe in yourself has come from other people instead of being
Yeah,
intrinsic.
yeah, no, I definitely feel that way. Like on like a surface level, and whenever I'm talking to people that I'm comfortable around, like I can joke about being extremely intelligent, or like I'm the smartest man ever, right? Like things like that. Like that's not a problem like to like play around with. But the second that I'm not in that situation, or I'm not like surrounded by people that tell me that, it feels as though um like the only thoughts that pop up into my head are like examining what I know and what I think I know, and then I don't have anything to be like, hey, you're smart. And if I
Mm-hmm.
tell myself that, it feels a little bit forced, right?
Mm-hmm. So let's
And
tackle that a little bit, actually. Um, so you said that a lot of it comes from, like you feel like you're letting people down if you don't understand something because they're the ones who believe in you. Let's do you feel like you're basing your ability on like basically other people's praise?
See,
Like
I
if they
don't know.
stop, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
See, I don't know if it's that like, because I don't think that's quite it. Because I feel as
Mm-hmm.
though I still do what I have to, and I still understand and do well whenever I'm not hearing the praise. It's just I feel like in those moments I'm doing the things, and that's when the doubt starts to creep in,
Mm-hmm. Do you
right?
think that's
Like
based off of like, so when you said doubts, so doubts in yourself?
doubts, yeah, like doubts in like my ability and if I'm really up to par with what people have believed.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can see the return on my grades and like how I compare against other students and like my classes, and I see that I'm doing all right, right? Like to a satisfactory at the very least station. Yeah. But then it's it's like is it really that great? Like am I really doing that well?
That's the whole thing about this like imposter syndrome that we like to talk about. Like it doesn't matter how much proof is really presented to us, we aren't able to feel like we can accept it because we're not able to accept ourselves. And I'm going to say that alone, like just the whole, like you said yourself, you can see the returns, you can see that you're understanding things, might not be at the same exact level as like it was previously, but you're still being able to understand it. But at the same time, you're feeling that it's not quite it, that you're not quite up to par, even though you are getting the returns.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that alone here, so you're seeing the physical evidence of you being able to understand and you being intelligent, but something in your belief system is telling you against logic that you're not quite up to par.
Yeah. I feel like um just from the nature of the courses that I've done, like I mean beyond what came from my upbringing, but like the natures of the courses I've done, I've seen truly exceptional, like
Mm-hmm.
one of a kind type
Mm-hmm.
thinkers and scientists and mathematicians, right? And then I think I'm not there. I am here. What I see as average, like or above average, right? I'm not the furthest point on the normal distribution, right? Like I'm not three standard deviations away from the mean.
Are we able to? I want to say, are we able to recognize that how large of an expectation it is to essentially be the best of the best, to be three standard deviations away, to be to the
Oh,
total right of the
yeah,
bell curve?
yeah. Probability wise, I'm there with you. I understand how absolutely, I mean, borderline impossible that is.
Hmm. But we're still letting it affect how we feel about ourselves
Yeah,
or about yourself.
yeah,
I like to use we language.
yeah. No, that's fine. Yeah, yeah. No, like it's one of those like disconnects, right?
Hmm.
Like where it almost feels a little bit hypocritical. Number wise and theory wise, I understand it,
Hmm.
right? My brain computes the things and knows the numbers and has seen the process. So I'm like, sure, like
Hmm.
I get why that is the case. But like somewhere, like on some other part of me is just like that doesn't matter. Like it just kind of like pushes that aside.
Hmm.
Like I don't know, maybe it's like um it's not necessarily like that that's always the case, but rather that like it peaks its head at kind of the most crucial moments when I don't need it to peek its head.
Now, if it's okay with you, I would like to kind of make that kind of our focal point of our time together, this and in future sessions as well, and really try to work on being able to recognize that even though that you're not the best of the best of the best, you're not, Nikola Tesla, um, Elon Musk, I thought of the other Tesla guy, that you're still incredibly intelligent and you are good enough. Do you feel like you have feelings of not good enough?
Yes and no.
Mm-hmm.
I think it really just depends on uh, broader circumstances, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
what I'm dealing with at the time, whether it be academically or outside of academics. Like most of the time, I'm like, yeah, this is fine, and then other times it's like, you're trash. Like, come on, kid, you're a scrub, and
Mm-hmm.
then
Now,
right.
can you tell me about the difference in the situations? Like, what would bring upon saying I'm trash, and what would bring this is all right? Because I'm still not hearing you saying that I'm intelligent, I'm still not hearing a whole lot of confidence.
Yeah, I think the main difference is the like really just like stresses outside of academics, and then like what is currently going on in my academics. So like if I have extra stresses outside of academics, like I'm booked up with a lot of students, I have like like bills are coming up, things like that, like then it starts to peak up a lot. And then inside of academics, it's like I have a lot of work like coming in, a lot of work due, like big things coming up, like
Mm. That you said that's when you feel a lot of self doubt building up.
yeah, is mainly when the stresses start to pile up. Whenever I'm at a nice pace of things being done and my workload is relatively balanced, I
Mm-hmm.
don't I don't feel so much that way. But
Is it when you feel like you're in control versus when you feel like you're not in control?
yeah, I think that's part of it. Like
Mm-hmm.
how much control I have over what is currently happening and what is not currently happening.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Because in times of stress, like you said, outside stressors, bills, and all that's stuff that like obviously we expect it, and like we can't really control that it's happening. And so that can be kind of hard to deal with, especially like you feel like, oh, I have all these other responsibilities and whatnot.
mhm, yeah.
Let's see, let's look at my notes here. Okay. um, so yeah, something I would like to do, part of my, therapy process is just like a little bit like of I like to give out like homework or some like assignments to do, you know what I mean? And the
Yeah.
one I really like is I can't remember the official name of it, but it's basically the courtroom scenario. Right.
Okay.
We already talked about your fault, or we already talked about your beliefs of despite actually performing decently well while you're not, you know, scoring 110s out of 100 on all your tests and becoming a chemistry god, you're
Yeah.
still doing incredibly well. Well, what the courtroom scenario likes to do is it puts your thoughts on trial. You play the role of the prosecutor, the defender, and then the judge. So the prosecutor is going to challenge your thoughts. So you're going to take that thought and you're going to try to challenge it. Like, why doesn't this make sense? Why is this illogical? Is this based in fact or based in emotion about a situation? There's also the defender, the defendant. You want to defend the thought and say, this is rational, or why is this rational? Why does it make sense to me? And then finally, once you have those two written down, because we like to write stuff down, you want to judge it and see which one actually makes more sense.
Do you suggest I like take a step back after I write them, like do something for a second so that
Mm-hmm.
I'm not kind of like dealing with like recency
Yeah,
and
that could be a confound, like depending on which one you had done. You would be, let's say, like if you ended with the defending side, your thought process would already be in the motion of a defendant. So you can write down, if you want to take a break between all of them, you can, but keep that thought in mind. Like do the prosecution or do the defending, maybe 5 minutes, prosecution, 5 minutes, mull it over a little bit, and then the judge action. So what we like to do, let's run a little scenario right now. Let's just talk about just with this right here. Let's, even though we're not going to have a break in between, I just want to make sure we got the gist of it pretty much.
all right.
So let's challenge the belief of what we've been talking about recently.
Okay, so like non-intelligent, not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You can start with
So
prosecution or defender, either one.
okay, let's start with defense. So if it was defense, I would say that um, in large part, like many other criteria and things that we judge things based off of, both in an empirical sense and kind of a more qualitative sense, we have this, we use relativity, right? So how these things compare to those relative to them, right? So the intelligence problem of you being all right at best and not good at worst is a question of those who are in your current field. So relative, you are not intelligent, but you're all right. And so that's why it's logical. It's not based in emotion because we can see the data that comes back that suggests it's not the case.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Now let's try the prosecution side.
Prosecution side, I would say this is illogical because whenever we look at it from a larger sample size, which is what you should do when you are trying to effectively compare data and make qualitative assessments about data that are not quantitative in nature, you need as many things as you could possibly have, as many samples as possible. So only sticking within those who are close to you in your current academic field, you cut the sample size down to a few, maybe a few hundred, when you could compare it to a broader sample size of a few thousand, a few 100,000, if not more. And then if we look at it from there, where you're at in an already small subset of this distribution is fairly more towards the um, is farther away from the mean than what you think you are when you are so zoomed in. And I mean, this is the reason why it's illogical. And not only that, it's based in emotion because you only can look at those things around you. So those are the most important things to you in that context. Whereas there's a broader context to compare this against.
So now, since we didn't write this down, since we're in like the session, I'm going to have some closing statements, if you will, so you can hear it from a more objective standpoint. So from the defense, our closing statements are, when we compare things, empirical or qualitative, we like to use relativity against other people and compare ourselves to other people. And when we see that, we're able to see that we might not be as good as the person next to me. The prosecution says, when we really look at this and compare the larger data, like we were supposed to when actually doing a study, we're able to see that I'm not actually behind the curve, that I am doing good enough. In fact, I'm doing a little bit better than average when we look at the larger sample size. Did I miss anything on either of those?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, now it's time for you to be the judge again.
So I do think the prosecution has this one. Like my biggest concern whenever I see studies is the sample size, the number of trials that have been done, right? So if I read a paper about something like from social sciences and I see like a sample size of like 1,000 people and they're like, this is how people think. I'm like, that scares me because in chemistry, we run experiments tons of times. In mathematics, your work is peer reviewed and based off the work of countless other mathematicians that have been verifiably correct.
Yeah.
And so like they have like these large sample sizes, right? Like a large body of data and previous thought to compare it against. Whereas like when I'm comparing to myself to people in class, I am stuck with the people who are in my class, no more, no less. And that leaves me with a sample size that is minuscule compared to the sheer size of the world and number of samples there are to take.
Not to say you said the prosecution has this one. Like what this really does, it helps us analyze our thought processes because it's the belief of some that a lot of our feelings about ourselves, about the world around us, comes from these maladaptive beliefs that are in our that we have that aren't necessarily based in fact. Like you said, like you like to compare it to mathematics and chemistry, you wouldn't trust a paper that was just reviewed by like 5 other people who may or may not be smarter or like more intelligent or do better, have better scores than the person who wrote the paper. But you would trust something that was reviewed by thousands or tens of thousands of individuals.
Yeah.
Now there is a paper that I'm able to give you that will make this a little bit easier. Everything's kind of like labeled out and you're able to write it down and see everything. I just wanted to run through this exercise as the kind of last topic that we'd be talking about for this session. But yeah, is there anything like else that you would like to mention or anything that you would like to talk about?
What do I do with these feelings that the world is absurd?
Well, feelings that the world is absurd in a lot of ways. We just have to analyze it. Think about how it pertains to us because the world isn't us. We are us.
Oh, no. I'm good with that. This place is wild.
For sure. They do be wild. Awesome. So I appreciate you coming in today, Caleb.
Not a problem.
All right. I hope to see you next week.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Next week.
Sure. Peace out.
Peace out.